Here's an interview with Danny Lamagna. He's a great metal drummer, and he's going to help us kind of broaden the horizons of the podcast a little bit. He's even going to start hosting and be featured a lot more on these podcasts. So I am here with a good friend of MEI Studio. In fact, he's sitting in there right now with Danny Lamagna. Yeah, he's got his drum kit beautifully set up in the live room. And we're going to talk some shop a little bit today about a bunch of different things. Thanks for
Happy to
being
do
here.
it. Thanks.
I guess first
Thank you guys for letting me squat here during this whole craziness where, I wouldn't have a place to actually come and be able to practice this close to home if you guys hadn't let me sit up here. So thank you.
Well, that's all Anthony, of course. Danny, I should mention, lives upstairs from the studio.
Yep.
He is literally the in-house drummer.
I am also the in-house locker of doors and unlocker of doors.
It's a great thing. We need somebody like that. But yeah, Danny is not currently because no one's really playing shows anymore, but right before all this went down, he was drumming with the Real Mackenzies, and he's got a bunch of awesome bands. Oh yeah, he's even repping the team.
That's the best part of going on tour is I come home with new clothes.
There you go. Music pays for itself. But he's also drummed with bands like Biohazard, Walls of Jericho, Suicide City, Sworn Enemy, and I'm sure quite a few more. Whoever's calling, you know.
Yeah. It's been a pretty cool list, and I'm pretty fortunate. Like I've been able to play with a lot of different bands that I grew up listening to, and it's been a cool ride.
Where did drumming begin for you? I guess I should really start from there.
The earliest thing I can remember is I don't remember banging on pots and pans. Apparently I did it. I remember getting the plywood V with the rubber glued to it, red drum pad at Sam Ash when I was like 7 or 8 years old. Very shortly after that, my parents took me to Oceanside Music in Oceanside, Long Island, and we ended up buying a 3-piece drum kit from John, who was the second generation family owner at that place. And I started taking lessons there. It wasn't good. I had zero aptitude for it, but I was a very hyperactive kid. I was very uncoordinated, could not play sports. So my parents were just basically looking for anything that I could do. So they put this 3-piece kit in the basement, and I just made noise on it for months and months and months, not really making music or anything like that. And then somewhere along the way, I decided I wanted better drums, but like didn't deserve them, could not play what I already had. But, I wanted more. I wanted a hi-hat. I wanted a floor tom. I don't know why, but that's what I wanted. Because the kit that I had was like a kick, a tom, a snare, and like a cymbal that came off the bass drum. So they were like, all right, you practice every day for, whatever amount of time it was. I can't remember what they said. And we'll buy you a new kit for Christmas. So I practiced every fucking day at dinner time. I made sure they heard me. But the byproduct was I got like, the ability to play the drums a little bit. And, I started to actually be able to play some things. And then they got me the new kit. And just from then on, I think I got that kit when I was 10 years old. I have the receipt somewhere back at, my parents' place. It's in a closet somewhere. But I think I was about 10. And I've been in touch with John my whole life. He passed away recently. But, I'm still in touch with his family. So it's kind of cool that I'm still friends with those guys and still have them in my life, after they started me off on this journey.
That's really awesome. What kind of drum kit was it that you first got for Christmas?
It was a CB700 drum kit, which was like the Pearl knockoff when I was a kid. They were all made in the same factory and they got different labels put on them, but they had the same lugs, the same shells, and they were pretty decent drums. And eventually when I started teaching, I gave my little neighbor across the street the kit to hold on to, and she ended up throwing it out.
Oh man, well that's a shame in a certain way. It's nice to hold on to things like that, but on the same way, you can only hold on to so many things, and it's good to let someone else at least get some use out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I lent that kit to so many students. It was just like hey, my kid wants to play the drums. I was like, good. I don't have any room for this. Just take it. But I was never expecting somebody to like destroy it on me.
Were you involved in any of like the organized like school bands or anything like that when you were growing up?
Well, I started off actually playing trombone in third grade, and
Cool.
I very quickly, for reasons we probably won't get into today, but I ended up not staying in public school. So I got put in private school, and they didn't really have a band program. They had like the Paul Effman band program for private schools here. So I played, you know, I tried to play snare drum in that band, and it didn't really work out that great. I ended up quitting. But when I got to public high school in the 10th grade, when I got to go back, actually even in ninth grade. In ninth grade, I ended up joining Holy Trinity's school band. So I did play snare drum, marimba, timpani, and stuff like that in ninth grade. But then in 10th grade, when I went back to Baldwin, the band director was this guy, Brad Johnson, who was a percussion major in college. So I stuck with him for the 3 years I was at Baldwin High School because he was actually a percussionist. And even though I was taking drum set lessons back when I was a kid, he was probably like the first legit, like real, drummer percussionist that I took lessons with. So, he taught me a little bit about marimba. He was big on, you know, uh, snare drumming, classical snare drumming. And then the honors band was this woman, Helen Bauer, and she ran a theory course for senior year. So I needed like credits to graduate. So I ended up taking, college one theory my senior year of high school. So that's pretty much my background, non being a rock metal musician, just on the streets with my friends was, ninth, 10th, 11th, 12th grade, taking band class, learning the classical instruments, getting a little bit of a theory background.
Well, that's great. I mean, I was curious because I know you have such a, uh, I know you have a lot of students, and teaching's really been such an important part of your career path for you.
It's
Um,
been a it's been a life-saving thing, especially right now. I mean, if I didn't have teaching right now and all I had was playing, I'd be totally up shit's creek. The fact that I can sit up here and teach on Zoom, and I can, it's not like it was, in February before I left for tour, where I was teaching 50 kids a week. I still have a solid 3 days of lessons right now, and at least it's paying groceries and it's covering my end of the rent. And we have a little bit of studio work starting to pick up here, so I'm hoping I can kick MEI some money off of that end to help pay for the fact that they're not open and I'm taking up real estate here. But yeah, I mean, teaching, it's saved my life on more than one occasion.
when you're teaching, are you often going into, is it, I guess you kind of have to incorporate a lot of like rhythmic theory sort of, and understanding what obviously at the most basic level quarter notes and triplets and eighth notes are. Um, are you giving, and I know you're really interested more recently in kind of some polyrhythms, incorporating different limbs while you're playing. Are you reading rhythms a lot, and is that something that you ask your students to do a lot?
I am a strict enforcer of reading. As far as me being a teacher, there's a couple of things I feel that, like, if you're a teacher, you have a responsibility to impart certain traditions down. One of them is reading, and it's so damn important. I mean, and I remember learning to read in senior year of high school and faking it all the way up to that point. And then when I actually learned, I was just like, well, that was dumb. Like, why did I fake this shit for so long? I don't know why. I was just like, hey, I can't read, somebody teach me. Just the light switch, being able to rhythmically see the universe and not just, fuck my way through it trying to figure out what it is I'm trying to do here. Um, it's huge. I feel like reading is very, very, very important, especially when you're trying to teach a student to play. I've seen this 1,000 times, especially with my 5-year-old beginners. You're trying to explain something for them to do, and they're kind of doing it, but then you draw them a picture of it. Oh, I can do that. Kids can read music so easily. Like they'll pick it up very quickly. So it's a tool for me to be able to get my idea across, but it's also, you know, a thing to start being able to, you know, graphically see what it is you're playing. And it's helped me in the studio when I look at the Pro Tools grid or the MIDI, piano roll. I can apply my rhythmic theory to that and kind of see where it is in relation to that type of thing. I have no idea how people who don't read music can, work off a grid. I mean, I understand the lines are 16th notes and things like that, but if I didn't know rhythmic values and rhythmic theory, I have no idea how I would rationalize that.
Here's a question. When you get the opportunity to play with bands for the first time, are you just learning your parts by ear, or are you writing stuff out for yourself?
I wish I had it with me. I have notebooks and notebooks and notebooks of charts that are, basic form charts, but have rhythmic, cues and things written all over them. I literally brought everything back upstairs to the apartment with me. I have a big box that I carry with me down here. But I'm a charter, and a lot of the times when I have a new gig, like I'm going to use Walls of Jericho as an example here. When they first asked me about whether or not I'd be able to cover their gig, and I listened to the music. At first couple of listens, I was like, shit, this is kind of confusing. I don't know. So I sat with one song, paper and pencil and Pro Tools. I went measure by measure and I wrote out one entire song. And I found that it took me one day to learn the song. I was like, all right, if I can get one song in a day, I can definitely get 10 songs in 3 months. Let's go. But that's been the way I've done things, especially with last minute gigs. Because a lot of the times things come up very quickly. Hey, this guy can't make this thing. He got pulled off somewhere. He can't do it. Can you jump in here? 10 songs. We got to start next week. It's hard to learn that many songs for me anyway. I don't have good retention for that thing. So I usually make charts, and my charts usually are a combination of numbers of measures for sections, and then anything rhythmic that is not something I can get first glance. A lot of the times, things that I can't get at first or second listen, I'll write down just because I know I'm going to obsess over it and I'm going to listen to it to an hour. Or I can just write it down for 5 minutes and then it's there and I can learn to play it. So it's kind of been the way I've gone recently because it's been more efficient. Right up to the Mackenzies. Like the Mackenzies, there was 3 songs that were a little bit confusing for me. So I just made charts. And after I made the chart, it was real easy. There was a new song that they added after the tour started. And before I even tried to play it, I just went back to my hotel room. I sat with headphones. I wrote the song out, note for note, the whole song. I was like, I don't have time to fuck around with this thing. I need to play this tomorrow. I'm just going to write it. And, that's been my methodology for the last couple of years. Did that answer your question?
Oh, hell yeah, man. I mean, there's so many different, I guess, ways to get things down, especially if you're kind of in a fill-in spot where you gotta be on your
Time's
part.
never been on my side with these things, is what I'm getting at.
Say that again?
Time's never on my side with these things.
Yeah, so the little bit that you have, you gotta make a lot out of it and give yourself something to work with the next time around.
It's also helpful in the studio. Like I'm sure you've seen, Anthony always tells the stories. Danny's going to come in with his notebook and get it right the second time, Pretty much how it works,
What's kind of been your history with the studio and with Anthony?
Man, Anthony, I don't even remember how we met. I think we met through a flyer at the A room. It's like this rehearsal room at Hicksville. It might have been where we met. He'll probably remember better than I would. But Anthony had a neighbor down the block named Frank. This dude Frank Buffalino, and Frank, Anthony, and I like always played metal bands together. Like from the time we met. I think we met in like '97. I want to say I met him after I graduated, but I could be wrong on that. So it's probably like '97, '98. And Anthony had a digital 4-track, and then he got a digital 8-track, and he could chain them. So he had a 12-track. So he was like making our demos like right out the gate, And the studio actually was here in the basement in the control room, and it was I think it was a Tascam D88, could have that wrong. And that was his, mini disc recorder that he used to make all these recordings on. And we played in a ton of bands together. We were in whatever band we were in high school, like right after high school, which I think was you know what? I can't even remember the name of the band, but we used to play at the A Room all the time, and it was like, it was like a Megadeth style band. And then Frank and I went on and started playing death metal. And I don't think Anthony really liked that all too much, but eventually he came around and loved death metal later with Silent Fate, which I started playing drums in that when they got going. And then he was playing with Rob Balducci, and Mark, I believe, was the drummer at the time, and Mark had moved to Florida to open a pizzeria. And I didn't think I was good enough to play with them because they were playing like all this odd time, progressive instrumental shit, and I was just like, blast beats, bro, So eventually he convinced me to like try out, and I guess I tried out, and Rob didn't hate me, and we ended up playing in the band together for a long time. We went to England for the first time together in 2002, I think, and we got to go to California, play at the NAMM show together. We did a bunch of stuff together, and then the studio gradually started building. I ended up not playing with Rob anymore, and I started doing this thing with the guy from Biohazard that became Suicide City, and then I was on tour for a long time. And Anthony had started Silent Fate, and then we kind of like re-linked up with that. But he had MEI Studio going the whole time, like in the background, and just he started getting more and more clients, and every once in a while, he would ask me to punch drums over something. Or when he had the place in Franklin Square, he actually was writing some material that I guess became Silent Fate. And I went down there and I was learning how to play in the studio, so it was a good learning experience for me. He helped me a lot. He's always giving me a place to play, and he's always throwing work at me whenever he can. We have 5 or 6 CDs on the wall in here that I think I play drums on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I played drums on 6 of them.
6 out of 5.
It's just the stuff that made it out. He's done hundreds of products that had never seen the light of day.
Anthony's certainly a really admirable guy. I guess he's been quite busy, so I haven't been able to get him to sit down with me on one of these.
He never will. He hates to talk.
He's a great talker, and he's taught me so goddamn much from just him.
Hey, you're gonna have to get him like this. You're gonna have to just have a conversation with him and just record it, and do that for like 6 months, and then piece it together.
Dude. I mean, it's more like 6 minutes practically. He's like, I feel like when he's got something to say, you really got to listen, because there's a lot of information that comes flying at you. And
He's super analytical, and he knows his shit inside and out. From the day I met him, like, just you could tell this guy like knew his shit. He wasn't going to do anything he didn't know how to do.
Yeah, that's something to really look up to. He's one of the few people that I'll give a piece of music and say, rip this apart. He
will.
Yeah, and you know where he's coming from too. It's not necessarily like, I mean, I'm really in such a different musical world from you guys, like, I don't expect him to necessarily have a preference on whether like the style of the track is good. It's really if it sounds good.
He got crazy ears, man. He doesn't think about style. He just thinks about like, is this a good idea? Is this a bad idea? Do I like this idea? Do I like this idea because I like it? Do I not like this idea because it's something I'm not used to? He's very good at detaching himself from the situation.
Yeah, when you're mixing or mastering, it's so necessary. As someone that does a lot of productions for my own group, and I'm trying to get away from doing that more. I just want to record things and give them to somebody. When the whole group's got their hands in on it, it's just like everyone wants to shape something, and it becomes too much, So
too many cooks in the kitchen, right?
Yeah, it's good to have just that one voice of reason when you're working on a project or whatever it might be, and when everyone's got their own set of ears and opinions.
Yeah. No, he's good. He's very good at being like an indifferent voice of reason, if that's a good sentence.
Yeah, so you guys also did some touring with Sworn Enemy together, right?
Shit, I can't believe I even forgot about that. Yeah. So Anthony always said he wanted to go on tour, right? So
Okay.
I kind of like half fucking set him up for this one. I was like, all right, bro, you want to go on tour? Here we go. So Sworn Enemy needed a bass player for like an 8-week run in Europe. And I was just like, come on, put your money where your mouth is, right? I knew that I knew he wasn't gonna love it, but I knew he was also gonna love it. You know, being on tour and knowing Anthony the way I do, like, there's just some shit I know he's not gonna like. He's not gonna like staying up all night in a fucking hostel. He's not gonna like being in the van for 15 hours. He's not gonna like fucking having to eat whatever the fuck's there. You know, he's not gonna like having no personal space. He's not gonna like being in a room with 7 people all fucking day and all fucking night. You know, but he is going to love playing the shows. He is going to love the sightseeing, and he's going to love the food. So, you know, he went and did it. He was a trooper. He had a great time. Um, we busted each other's balls, not just me and him, but like me and the other guys that we were with, relentlessly the whole trip. And he came home and he was like, "I did it. I'm done. I'm just going to stick in the studio now." And I kind of figured that's what it was going to be. Like, I didn't think Anthony was going to have this like awakening in him where he was like, let's go again, you know? But, you know, it made me proud of him that he went and did it because he didn't have to. He wanted to. And he was like, I want to see what it's like. And he did it, you know? Silent Fate did some touring, you know? But it's way different to hop on a plane with nothing besides your instrument for 12 hours, land in another part of the world, and be like, all right, I'm going to backpack it for the next month and a half. Like, you know, that takes a set of, you know, survival skills that, you know, it's not the same thing as like, all right, you know, I'm going to drive 10 hours down into Chicago and play 4 shows and then come back. And I know I'm going to be home by Thursday. You know, you're committed, man. If you want to come home, you can't. You know, there's a crew of people in a band counting on you to be there every night. Even if you wanted to come home, the likelihood of you getting home, like, you know, within a 24-hour window is 0. It's going to take you 12 hours to figure out what airport you need to get to. And then you're going to have to wait for flights. You have to pay for that goddamn flight. It ain't going to be cheap, you know? So, you know, committing to doing a trip like that is kind of daunting to somebody who has never done it before. And for him to just jump in with both feet was pretty cool.
Yeah, the eject button isn't really there once you're
Nah.
a 12-hour flight away.
And I think our first show was at this place, Resurrection Fest. I think it was like 70,000 people or some shit. So,
Wow.
I mean, that was his first show with the band.
That's a snap wake up kind of moment, you know.
I
And
mean, he's an exemplary bass player. So, you know,
oh
there's no
yeah.
problem about that. But sometimes when you're on a crowd like that, you know, some people just,
Yeah, I mean, I guess when you bring someone over to a different part of the world, just that first glimpse of a huge audience or something will probably immediately affirm why they made the trip, you know.
yeah, and you're crazy from, you know, traveling for 2 days to get there. And I don't care what anybody says, man. I got friends that have been doing this for 35, 40 years. The first week you leave before a tour, you're useless. You're not getting shit done that week, you know? All you're doing is panicking and trying to get ready. So, you know, that coupled with the 24 hours of travel to get wherever you're going, it scrambles your insides, man.
Yeah, it's an upheaval. I'm sure you're kind of, in a certain sense, getting a little bit of like recovery time now that you just get to stay home and you don't have to be out on the road. Or, I mean, it would be better, obviously, in a certain sense, if you, or in many ways, if you could play shows. But, you know, and I felt the same thing too. Like, I was definitely in a rhythm of like, okay, like, let's go to the next live sound gig. And that was just kind of it. And I, you know, I was losing my hearing a little bit to a slight degree, and it was nice to just come home and to just kind of have a little bit more of an even pace rather than like the ups and downs of gigging kind of.
I'm not going to lie. I am feeling very fortunate about my situation here, you know? I'm still teaching, like I said. I've got lovely instruments to practice on. My wife is home all day now. I've got keyboards and recording equipment out the wazoo here. I can write. I'm making the best of this situation. Would I rather be on the road right now? Yeah, of course. You know, it's what I do. Would I rather be in a real, environment, one-on-one teaching? Hell yeah. This isn't so bad, This isn't much more different than what I usually do, except for the fact that my 6 hours of teaching a day is now a couple of hours of online. And in the mornings when I'm banging on my practice pants, there's somebody home with me instead of just me being alone talking to the cat, you know? But yeah, dude, I would love to be on the road. Especially now we can't talk about the band, but I just joined like a band full time, and it's been years since anybody's asked me to be a member of a band that's worth it, you know. So it's kind of like a double kick in the nuts right now because I finally had found, a home base, and now I just have to, wait a little longer before it's time for that, ship to launch. But
Yeah, I think a lot of musicians have kind of shared like a similar type of thing. Before this summer was rolling around, I guess there were so many promising opportunities for so many people. I definitely knew I had a few gigs lined up for the spring and summer that I was really looking forward to, and just like getting my feet under me and some new gigs and that kind of thing. And it's definitely for so many people just I don't know, it's just everything
yeah,
has
man,
come
it's
to a head.
heartbreaking and it's hard times, But the thing is that like there's two. The way I see it, there's like two classes of people right now. There's the people who can't work, and there's people who have to work, and both of those people have different sets of hardships to deal with. Like I have friends who are construction workers and things like that, and they're out there risking exposure to things and risking to bring things back home. I have other friends who are working in hospitals and things like that, and they have to go to work and they're scared and they don't want to be there either. For somebody to tell me I can't go to work for a couple of weeks and I have to stay home and find a way to make that work at home, I'm not going to complain about it.
Yeah, it's a challenge to a certain degree, and it's just like, anyone in a situation, especially as a musician, it's like that you're never going to be in like I don't want to say never, but a lot of times you're not going to be in the most steady situation. So it's just up
No,
to
never. So that's another thing too is that like there's a meme going around of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Do you know those guys?
yeah.
These people are new poor.
Okay.
you know, like I'm old poor, dude. Like this isn't a problem. I'm making it work. I've been, you know, less well off than this. I actually did have a point to make, but I can't remember what it was a second ago. It's Always Sunny. Bands. It'll come back.
Well,
Old age. Sorry, folks.
hey man, it comes and it goes. One thing that I'll ask you about that's kind of probably an important thing for you is you're sponsored by DW now, right?
I am since 2003, I believe.
Oh wow, man. So
No,
that's
wait,
a
no, that's wrong. 2005.
that's still a long-standing relationship. That's awesome. How is that? How is
It's
that?
fantastic, actually. My rep at DW, who I'm not going to name because I don't know if he like wants people knowing who he is, so they start emailing him and Facebooking him and shit. I'm having issues right now because I'm home in the studio all day and all night forever. I cannot, for the life of me, get a couple of my snare drums to sound the way I want. So I've been like, reaching out to tech friends and drummer friends, and one of my buddies troubleshot the drum for me. So I immediately was like, blanket DW, what do you think of this information I just received? And we're friends. We talk frequently about things other than music, but DW has been one of the best companies as far as any of my product support, man. If I need drums in other places, they help me secure them. I bought a kit last summer when I was in Europe. I think I paid, a quarter of what that kit cost. And now I never have to rent drums again, ever again for Europe. I've got a set there. I've had issues with drums that I've owned from them with things, failing. The next day, the parts are here. I've recently bought a stainless steel kit, and a couple of the lug casings failed. The next week, hey man, these parts didn't work. All right, replacements there in a heartbeat. Pedal parts. I have a whole second unassembled pedal that I travel with. They don't charge me for stuff like that. They've made it so easy for me to be able to just, show up places and play because I have a little pedal case full of crap that I know I need. It's been great. And, they sponsor clinics for me from time to time whenever I request for it. And they help, offset the finances that it costs to put something like that on and pay for advertising. They've really been great. I can't say enough about the company. It's not a big company. You can go to the factory and you can meet everybody there in a day. It's not like 10,000 people working there. But
That's awesome.
yeah, it's been a great relationship, and they've given me an opportunity to try out some gear that ordinarily I would never have the ability to afford. Like the kit that I have down here right now. I can't even tell you what the fucker costs retail, but there's no way this kit's under 20 grand. I've got 17 drums here. Like,
That's amazing.
stupid. And the hardware too. Like anytime something breaks in the hardware, if I put in a request for a replacement part, it's there.
That's good. I wouldn't have understood kind of that your sponsorship could go as far as to kind of, especially as a drummer who kind of will bounce around to different venues and different rooms and different states and countries, like that you could get help kind of getting a good kit under you every time. That goes a
That's a big
long way.
help too, because if I know I'm renting a DW or a PDP kit, I know I can bring the things that usually fail. Like as well as these things are made, there's still shit that goes wrong. You're gonna lose tension rods, cymbal stands. There's 3 or 4 points of a cymbal stand that are vulnerable to break during transit. So I just bring extras of that shit. And if I know I have a DW or a PDP kit, I've been doing this long enough that I know what usually breaks. So I bring 1 or 2 extras with me.
It's funny. The guys that drum in my band, I have 2 drummers in my band. They both love DW kits and their hardware too. And I'm not just saying that. Like we've I don't know, those guys have shat on a lot of different hardware that they've had to use. And I guess as a drummer, that's like one of the, I guess that there's almost a million. You said you got a 17-piece kit in front of you. There's so many little points where you got to adjust some hardware. So it really becomes such an important thing of just doing what you got to do so you can really be comfortable playing. And if your hardware is wonky, then you're just going to be all over the freaking place.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. A lot of the times I'll put a DW 9000 series throne on my rider, and that's usually the one thing that I get pissed about when I show up and there's not a DW throne. The other thrones, the tops just aren't as big as this one. You know me, I'm 5'4". I'm not a huge guy. I can't imagine what would happen if a 6-foot man had to sit on a small Tama throne. That shit would go right up your fucking ass. So, the hardware is super important. And a lot of the DW 9000 stuff that I've always put on my rider, I want because of how heavy it is. Nothing is more frustrating than trying to play your instrument and having it running away from you. It's the most horrible feeling in the world, watching your hi-hat stand go this way.
Yeah.
Like, the cymbal stand walking away. It's frustrating. It's like, you go to move and you pull it back in, you kick yourself off of balance for a second, your time lapses. It's not fun. It sucks. So the hardware is important, and I agree with your drummers about that. So while we're on the topic of endorsements, I also am endorsed by Vader, who right now have been super awesome. They've been posting a lot of my Instagram videos off their website. And that's cool because they're supporting me that way. And I don't know if you can see these Sabians. I got Sabian cymbals on board with me too. And I've been playing Vader, Sabian, and DW since probably around 2004. I got all those deals through Suicide City when our first record came out, and we were kind of hitting it hard. I had made contacts with these guys and made relationships with them, and they kind of watched things develop. And I never asked for anything. And eventually, they're like, hey, if we can help you out with artist pricing on sticks or cymbals or anything, let us know. So that's how those things came to fruit, DW was the only one that I actually had to apply for, and I had only applied for pedals because I didn't think I was going to get the whole drum line. And then when my application got kicked back to me, they asked me if I wanted to apply for, drums. I was like, hell yeah. Why wouldn't I want those? And
Have any of them custom built you any products?
yeah, well, that's the thing. Is like everybody does custom jobs now. For you know, I think 10 years ago it probably didn't happen at all. I've got this crash cymbal here. This is a 19-inch HHX Extreme Crash. They usually only do this in a 19. I've gotten it 20. So like that's a custom cymbal,
That's awesome.
A lot of the drums I've had from TW, they're made to order. Like they don't have these things sitting around. They build them.
Gotcha.
And as far as Vader goes, I've never like tried to get a custom stick out of them, but they sent me some stuff that isn't out yet. Like I had a whole box of these Tim Alexander drumsticks that like weren't out yet, and I was playing for a little while. But I use pretty stock sticks. I use the 5B and I use the Virgil Donati Shedder stick.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Man.
everybody does custom shit now, especially Sabian. Sabian's got a whole custom shop. They'll make whatever the hell you want.
I guess they'll go wherever their clients will want to pay them or where their customers will want to pay them.
Well, you see, like, I mean, sure, you look on Instagram and shit like that. You see everybody with these ridiculous fucking ride cymbal hi-hats with, holes in them and shit like that. I don't think a company would really make that and try to market it to people. I think there's probably only like, a small percentage of the population that would use that. But then again, I'm playing the 17-piece kit, so what the fuck do I know?
Yeah, drumming's really an interesting. It's like drummers kind of have a similar thing with car enthusiasts almost. I feel like
Yeah, I can see that.
there's
Yo,
some.
high-end guitar guys are the same thing, right?
I know what you mean. I definitely know what you mean. Like there's something really there to show off in a certain sense. Like
Look what I got.
and I guess you see, especially nowadays on like social media. I don't know if you're active on Instagram. You mentioned it though, so like just
I am, just nobody pays attention to it. But I don't feel bad about it because I work,
that's
Like whenever I see these Instagram dudes that are like, have a bazillion views, my first response is like jealousy. I'm like, well, how come nobody's paying attention to me? Well, for a couple of reasons. One, I'm fucking 42 years old. Nobody gives a shit about me. The other thing is I make the music I want to make on Instagram, and maybe it sucks. I don't know, but it's what I do and it's what I like. And the other thing about it is that like I play in bands, and that's what I feel like I do. Like, and I'm stupid too because like whenever I go on tour, I never bring a GoPro. I never record the shows because I want to enjoy the show and I want to be there. Like the Mackenzie's run, right? I didn't get through the whole 25 shows with them, but we played like I think 10 or 12 or something like that. Short of me taking my picture during my intermission where the singer always addresses the crowd, that's the only thing I took. Walls of Jericho too. I wish I had my GoPros on that tour. Those were some of the best shows I've ever played in my life. Between the transmission of energy between the audience and the band and just how fun the shows were and how awesome the people in that band were. But, there's no video or audio record of that anywhere. And, when the new thing kicks up too, I completely intend on not documenting that shit either. I just want to be there.
Do the bands not? Is it not typical for bands to document maybe like a night of it or something like that? Or
tell you what, Mackenzie's and Walls of Jericho were both like, why didn't you bring your shit? Well, Walls of Jericho, I forgot it. I left it on my mixing desk because, like I said earlier, the whole first week before a tour starts for me, I'm useless. I remember getting to JFK and being like, I left my GoPros on my mixing desk. Like I as soon as I got to the airport, I was like, shit. Couldn't remember that 15 minutes ago. I lived 10 minutes from the airport. But and the Mackenzies, honestly, I had a bad feeling that something was going to happen with the pandemic and things getting shut down. So I tried to travel as light as I could. I didn't even bring a pedal. I didn't bring a snare drum. I got everything I could that I usually bring with me because I was like, you know what? If I get the fuck out of Dodge quick, I don't want to have extra shit with me.
What was the
And I
last
ended up having to get out of Dodge quick, so that happened.
what was the last date that you guys played before you had to cancel?
I believe it was March 13th in Grand Prairie, and
That's
you know,
Texas, right?
no, Alberta, Canada.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry.
Yo, small town. Like, if you want to talk about like the post office is also the airport, that's Grand Prairie. Like, crazy. I never seen nothing like it. It looked like a one horse town from a western. But driving to that gig, we made the decision that we weren't going to play the rest of the tour. We were going to do
Wow.
2 more shows, and then by the time we got to that show, those last 2 shows got canceled too. So
Were
didn't feel
people
good.
was it harder to get people out, or was the attendance pretty normal for the shows leading up to that?
Well, the thing was is that we didn't get to the biggest shows of the run. We played the biggest show that we played was in Vancouver. I think that was a 1,200 seater and it was sold out. So that was good. And
That's
then
all.
after that, we played, that was like a Friday night. Then we played, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in smaller markets and stuff like that. And, Grand Prairie, we played at a small club, probably 150, 200 people. It was good, spaced out. But the night before that, we had a giant show in Edmonton, I believe. And 5 minutes before doors, they pulled the show on us. When we got there, it was a 500 cap club. They said they're only letting 250 people in. You're going to play 2 sets. By the time we got to doors, they were like, people can't sing. They're like, how are we going to stop them from singing? So like, well, if you can't stop them from singing, we're going to pull the show. So
Yeah.
that was the first show that got pulled. It ended up being like a podcast. They simulcasted the show. But at that point, the cracks were showing. We were like, so what happens if we wait this out to get to the 3 anchor shows and they pull them when we get there? Because now you're driving, 16, 17 hours to get to the next gig. That's a substantial gas bill.
Yeah. And it's also you run the risk of getting stuck anywhere on the way,
Yeah,
So,
and then the other thing too that started playing games with me was like, the government's asking people to stay home and we're asking them to come out. I'm not trying to be an alarmist or anything here, but like, are we doing the right thing asking people to gather when people are saying maybe it's not a good idea?
yeah, it becomes a whole moral dilemma, and I think I mean I had to pull the plug on a book tour that I spent months working on to put together, and before the first show could even happen, you got to pull the plug,
Yeah.
and it's just like you feel weird about everything about it. Another thing too is just like I think as a musician you have to accept the fact that like you're not you're not out there saving lives or anything necessarily. Like people are happy to enjoy music, but like I'm not going to act like I have the most important job in the world. So it's a big perspective kind of thing. It snaps you into like, oh well, like I don't want to prioritize anything that I have going on just because it's something that I'm doing over like the health of society. And when so much is going on and it's like a frenzy, it's hard to make anything feel like you're doing the right decision almost
Yeah.
because
I mean, I get the show must go on mentality, like I played shows with a broken foot. I played shows with the flu. I played shows that I'm so sick I don't even remember being there. I remember playing at Jack's in Virginia, and my bass player Jennifer waking me up in the van, carrying me to the drums, playing the show, and then putting me back to bed in the van. Like the show must go on. I get it, but there's a certain point where, like, if the show goes on, am I doing good or bad? And that's kind of where we got stuck with the Mackenzies, and luckily we all got on the same page, and it didn't become a thing. But like you could see, some guys wanted to go home and some guys wanted to go on, and we all wanted to play, but like the promoters were like, guys, are you sure? And the label people were like, guys, are you sure?
that's just such a tough position to be in.
Nobody wanted to be the person that says we can't do it, but the world made the decision for us.
Yeah, it's a morale kind of thing, and that show must go on mentality is really, I mean, it's funny. Earlier in the winter, we were playing a show booked in February in the Albany area, and it was a snowy night. And we showed up to a venue, and someone that worked at the venue, we were opening, so we didn't really have any authority in the situation as the opening band. We're told by someone that works for the venue, sorry, no, the night's canceled. And we're like, well, we can't just turn around, like we told an owner, or not an owner, we told the headlining band that we were going to be there for them. And like the person that books for them has some clout to us, so we're just not going to abandon the situation. And it's such a strange thing. Like it really, that night it messed with me to just have the feeling of like, wait, like am I playing, like someone told me I'm not playing a show tonight. So like you have a switch in your mind that's like, oh, like I'm getting ready for this. And then as soon as someone like pulls the floor out from beneath you, you're free falling.
Dude, that never would have happened 15 years ago. I mean, like maybe it would have, but not in my life. Like I remember even this is going way back. Like I remember playing at the Roxy in Huntington when I was like a teenager. There was like 6 feet of fucking snow. Everything was closed. Guess what? That show still went on, Like, and when I was in Suicide City, I can't tell you how many times, like, you know, shows looked like they were getting canceled. We were like, no, we're playing. We're on our way. Make it happen. And guess what? Those shows went on. So I feel like things have gotten, aside from the chaos that's now, I feel like shit's gotten way softer as far as like, maybe we should cancel. Like that shit never used to happen. Like now promoters are all fucking weird about like, well, if the turnout's not good and I don't make the money back, I'm gonna lose my ass, might as well cancel. Or like, bands see that their ticket sales aren't good and they're like, oh, I don't want to look like a dick, I'm gonna cancel. Like, fuck that. Show up and play. Play for nobody, play for somebody, just fucking play.
Yeah, I guess as someone that's in a band, I made the realization with the guys in my band, or we made it together, that like we're doing this to have fun for ourselves first and foremost. Like getting people out there and connecting with people is a really important thing. But if you can't put your band in any room and just play music and enjoy that, then it's like, what the hell did you?
I'm gonna find a picture and send it to you later because I'm gonna have to dig for it. Sworn Enemy played a show at a 5,000 seat venue, right? There was 11 people at it. It was the best fucking show we ever played. Like somebody fucked up and booked us in this giant club. Like, it was like 11 people. I don't even think I'm lying. That number's in my head because it's probably accurate. But like, and I still talk to those 11 people on Facebook, like, twice a month.
That's awesome, man.
So, I mean, those are the kinds of connections that, like, shit shows will make for you.
Yeah, for real. I've played so many shows in my life that have been like, oh, well, like, it's not as poppin' as I want it to be. Sometimes, you share a bill and the other band's fans don't give a shit, or, it can go so many different ways. But you're so right. Like, those people that do share that engagement are the people.
Especially if you bring it.
Yeah, like
these people some reason to remember you, and it's not that these guys didn't give a fuck because there was nobody here. You're gonna do right by them.
we participated in, like, I remember participating in a battle of the bands in Bristol, Connecticut on like a Tuesday night a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it's probably the worst place to play on a Tuesday night.
Oh yeah, man, it was definitely a bit of it was quite a dead night there. And we it was a battle of the bands, so we really were like, you take some pride into that, especially like, okay, we got to present the best of ourselves.
Best foot
And
forward.
I remember like there were a few people, I guess like the regulars at the bar there, and like we sold a crap ton of CDs that night, and it was just from that mentality of like, I don't care how many people are in the room or not, like I'm gonna do my best and I'm gonna enjoy that. And you make connections, and it's that's what it's all about, man. Like there's so much other it's annoying, or it's not annoying, but I guess just it's reality that so much other crap gets tied into like being a musician and being involved in music. So many relationships go in strange directions when you're putting groups together and stuff like that. But just that pure enjoyment is, I think, is what everyone starts in it for.
Yeah, and it's really the only reason to do it because why else? I never realized when I first set out to try to make my life the way it is, right? I didn't realize that, you know, it was going to be hours of airports and van rides and 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes on stage to sell t-shirts. You know, I thought it was about people coming to watch me make music. It's not, you know, like the way you perceive something may not be the way it is. And I guess the thing I'm trying to say here is like, if you go out there and all you're doing it for is like the sheer love and joy of doing it, people are going to see that. They're not going to be like, oh, this dude's here to sell t-shirts. They're going to be like, this dude loves to play the music that he's playing. Let's go buy a t-shirt.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It being as sincere as you can really sells it better than trying to sell it actually can do for you.
Yeah, and plus, I'm not a salesman. Like, I'm a terrible business person. You know, I'm a mediocre art side person, but like, I'm a fucking F-class business person.
I kind of share that sentiment too, man. Like if you told me to sell something to save my life, I'd probably put a gun to my head practically.
I'd give it away for free, and then you'd have to shoot me.
Fuck. All right. Well,
Wow, man. Yo, I probably have more fucking like pro bono lessons than I do paying lessons right now because I'm giving all my friends' kids drum lessons because like they're home and they're fucking bored. I'm like, I'm not charging you. You're not working either. you know?
yeah. And it goes a long way too, man. Like doing people favors like that, like they know that like they're gonna want to support you when they're good for it, and when you have a show that they can make it to, or anything like that, like, or even just as simple as like liking your post and commenting on your shit, like,
Yeah, if they share it, maybe somebody who's going to pay for a lesson will see it.
yeah, it really goes a long way. Just anyway, like your people can support you and you can do things for them, man. That's what it's all about. I'm gonna stop the recording though, because we got plenty here, man. That was really cool.